Hey y'all, what's up? JamiThatsMe here. I am back, and this time I kind of want us to chat about Diddy, and not so much as chat, but I have to shout out the Inner City Press over on Twitter because I want to get into as I can at this particular time the cross examination of Don Richards. Y'all know last week Cassie did go on the stand, and this week we have Don Richards that's going on the stand. And what he is doing over here on Twitter is giving us a play by play of things that are being said and what's being asked and answered, okay, between both sides of attorneys. All right, you have the prosecutors, you also have the defense, and you have Donna Richards, who is on the stand currently. Now, I do recall last week that Diddy's team was trying to get Don Richards to be snatched off the witness stand. They didn't think that it was relevant, whatever the case was. They didn't want her there. Well, it appears that the judge allowed her to move forward. Y'all know that she is suing Diddy. She also has her civil suit against him for certain things. I believe she said that she experienced sexual harassment from him, in addition to like forced labor. It was a few things that Dawn was accusing him of. She even highlighted where she has witnessed where he has physically assaulted Cassie. So they're allowing her to be on the stand, and I want us to, check it out. All right. Somebody said something. I was listening to someone's live and they had call ins, and somebody said something that I thought was really stupid. Someone mentioned that Cassie didn't want Dawn to get in on her lawsuit, so she sued Diddy first because she didn't want to have to split the money with Dawn. And I'm like, y'all make no sense because it was so many months in between before Dawn even filed a lawsuit. I really feel like Dawn about filed that lawsuit. I think Cassie filed her lawsuit in like November of 2023, whereas Dawn didn't file her lawsuit until the summer of 2024. Okay, I don't think that there were any plans to ice somebody out or any of that. But anywho, child, let's just go ahead and just get into some things. All right. Honestly, I also feel like Cassie is the reason that a lot of the trickle down effects of the lawsuits came because everybody saw her power and her strength. And I know she glad that she went ahead and got in before everybody else so she can get that 20 million as she should. And then even though she was getting trying to get to 30 million, she turned around and got 10 million from the hotel. I'm not bad at it. Let's go ahead and hop over here because I want to get into what they're saying. So now he's saying the jury is entering. All right. AUSA, that is going to be the prosecutor. So the prosecutor says, when Mr. Combs told you people could I guess go missing, how did you interpret that? Dawn says that people could die. I couldn't believe that this could be the beginning of a journey for us. So the prosecutor says, as a Diddy dirty money? Dawn says, yes. All right. Goes on to say, what did you observe? Dawn says, he would drag her and kick her and punch her in the mouth. What would prompt these acts of violence? Objection. And this is what Diddy's attorney is saying. The judge says overruled. Okay, keep going. Dawn says when she would speak up for herself, that's what would prompt those acts of violence. So prosecutor says, who in security witnessed these things? Dawn says, D-Rock and Bonds. All right. Prosecutor says, where did Cassie get hit? Dawn says, her knees, her face, all over. Prosecutor, did there come a time you were in New York for a festival? Dawn says, yes, in Central Park. Prosecutor, in the residence, what happened? Dawn says, he punched Cassie. She came into the bathroom crying. You could see her upset, like she was hurt. Objection. Sustain. All right. So prosecutor says, what injuries did you observe? She says a swollen eye. Ooh, child. Prosecutor says, why'd you remain with Cassie after this incident? Dawn says, I wanted her to feel supported. What's this? The prosecutor says. Dawn says the Central Park event. It was a photo of Cassie in sunglasses and Dawn Richards too. All right. The prosecutor says, where did you wear them? Okay. Solidarity is what she says. Okay. The prosecutor says the next assault. Who was there? Dawn says D-Rock, Capricorn Clark, Harvey Pierre. Prosecutor says, who is Mr. Pierre? Dawn Richards says, at Bad Boy answering to Sean Combs. Mm-mm. Prosecutor, did they do anything? Dawn says, none of us did anything. Ooh, child. I don't know how to feel about that. Everybody asking Cassie, why the hell didn't she run? Why didn't she just leave? Why did nobody else say shit? Okay, why they ain't saying nothing? Why ain't nobody else try to step in? right? But in addition to that, I love the way some of these posts have been going around where people were like, I mean, some of y'all be afraid to ask for your deposit back from some of these hairstylists, and you want me to believe that you finna leave a billionaire? You finna run from them? I said, I know that's right. Some of y'all be afraid to have conversations with your friends to check your homeboys or whatever the case. All right. So yeah, you don't even stand up for yourself in regular situations. What makes me think that you're gonna do that against the billionaire? I said, baby, y'all better go in about this stuff. So then Don Richard says, when we drove back to LA, he slapped Cassie in the mouth and told her to shut the fuck up. Ooh, baby. Prosecutors, how did the passengers respond? Don says, we stayed silent for the rest of the ride. Didn't say nothing. All right. Don says, I asked myself if he did that to someone he supposedly loved, would he do to an employee? So I'd approach Mr. Combs with softness, right? I could see that. I could see Dawn being timid and how she goes about approaching things, especially based on how we watched them, even when they were doing the show. Right. So the prosecutor says, did you try to intervene in the relationship? Dawn says, no. For my own safety, I didn't. But I feel like, in my opinion, intervening was being by her side and staying back with her so she could feel supported. That is a level of intervening. Right. You may not have intervened in a negative. I ain't gonna say because that's not negative to me, but I'm not gonna say you didn't intervene in a way to say, girl, you need to leave this man, you need to let this go. No, but you intervened to offer her comfort. And I feel like if he would have saw that, and I don't know, maybe he was aware of that, I don't know, he probably would have tried to harm you then. Right. So then she goes on to say, the prosecutor, did you see Mr. Combs using drugs? Dawn says, yes, weed, ketamine, Molly, coke, opiates, the prosecutor says. Dawn says, that I never saw. Prosecutor, who brought him the drugs? Dawn says, one stop. He had it all. One stop, he had it all, including Plan B, birth control. Ooh, Plan B and birth control. You done had all of that, child. That's Woo, wasn't no hospital, wasn't no doctor. Cause I think Cassie even said that I think she had to a doctor had to come to them one time. So I don't, girl, that's listen, this man going, I don't care what y'all saying, this man going to jail. I'll be surprised if he doesn't. So they're saying, did you see Mr. Combs with guns? All right. She says, yes, handguns on his lower back. Who asked had I guess they meant to say who else had handguns? Dawn says security, D Rock, and Bonds. Prosecutor, did you go after Bad Boy? Or oh no, I'm sorry. What did you do after Bad Boy? Dawn said, sing. Whenever I got momentum, I'd get a FaceTime from him. Whenever I got momentum, she'd get a FaceTime from this man. So then the prosecutor says, how would you speak to him? Dawn says, very soft. I always call him bro. And I believe this because there was an interview that Dawn did a while ago. And I think I did like a Diddy Dawn video on it. It was pretty short, maybe 8 minutes, no more than 12, I don't think. But in that video, she did kind of give him his props. You know what I'm saying? She always gave him credit for her career, this, that, and the other. And I mean, I could see it. You know, she got to kind of play nice ball with him just a little bit to make sure that he doesn't stunt all her opportunities in the industry. So let's keep going. So then she says that the prosecutor says, why did you not disclose the abuse you seen? Dawn says, I was told not to by Mr. Combs and Harvey Pierre. Prosecutor, when did you speak out? Dawn says 2024. Right? That's when she finally opened her mouth. I feel like for me, I think that was when she finally felt safe enough to open her mouth because of the fear that she may have had. Right after seeing Cassie come forward to finally tell her truth and other people suing Diddy, I think that gave Dawn it empowered her to also do the same. All right. But I also can be honest and say I can see here where there are going to be places within her testimony that the defense is going to come in and eat her up. You know, a lot of times people don't like when folks give the defense their credit on how they're handling some of the witnesses. You know, people get offended by that, they don't like it, but y'all got to understand, you know, whether we're all on the same side or not, whatever it is, listen, those people were paid to do a job. You can't get mad at somebody saying, damn, the defense got her on that. Oh shit, the defense did their thing today because like now they got me over here questioning. You got to consider the jury is human just like us. Yes, they may get evidence that we don't get, like seeing video and stuff, but they human just like us. The goal is for the defense to create reasonable doubt, whether y'all like it or not. They were hired to do a job. They got to do their job. And with doing their job, their goal is to make witnesses that the prosecutors bring to the front look a fool. That is their goal. And if they succeed, if you got people saying like, dang, They kind of got me questioning now. They make her look a little crazy. That's exactly how some, not all, because we don't know, but I'm making an assumption of the jurors. Out of 12 people, those are 12 different opinions, 12 different thought processes and everything. At least one or two of them on the stand is thinking how some of those folks that are coming to the front feeling like, oh, damn, the defense, they kind of had one on today. Listen, they're kind of thinking like those folks are. And sometimes all it takes is one person to not feel like he's guilty of that. And then, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's why I want both sides of it. I don't want to hear from a person that's all team Cassie and yay, yay, yay. And I don't want to hear from a person that's all team Diddy, 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 Diddy. I want to hear both sides to make a fair assessment of what's really happening in the courtroom. And what I do like is how this man is putting out just the facts. Now, people get offended when others give their opinion with the facts, right? But I mean, that's a part. I feel like journalism and commentating, it can be blurred at times, right? And you don't gotta like it because that's their person's opinion. That's their opinion. But also make sure y'all give us the facts. Okay. What are the facts? What happened in the courtroom? Yada yada. If you feel like, oh, it made me think like that. Okay, that's how you felt. I still don't see how you got that from what all took because I got something different. But the people been in an uproar, baby. They been mad about it. It's like, girl, go away from me. Anywho, I could care less, okay? But I will say that I'm still standing on the side that I'm on. And I will say I don't see Diddy doing a whole lot of time, but I've said that from the beginning because part of me feels like this, and I could be so wrong when I say it. I feel like because he's a millionaire, they probably gonna let that man buy some of his time down. I don't know why I feel like that, but I feel like he might be. I don't know. Okay. If he's still a billionaire, if not, he's still a millionaire. Okay. Um, aside from that, you know, I don't want that to happen. I really don't. Like, if you've committed the crimes, you've been violating people, you got to go. You've got to go. Okay. So let's keep going though. So Dawn says, I saw Cassie take the stand and tell the truth. Objection. Okay, Diddy's team says, judge says sustain. Prosecutor, did you see Cassie file a civil lawsuit and then file yours? She said yes. I'm glad she said that. I'm glad that was asked so that could shut up whoever was on that video talking about, I don't think Cassie wanted Dawn to get some of the money and whoop, it's like, what are you talking about? Okay, they have different situations. Stop that. Um, Anywho, the judge says cross. So now it's time for Miss Dawn to be cross-examined, right? So Diddy's attorney says, you are aware there's a motion to dismiss your lawsuit, right? She says, I have civil lawyers. The defense says, you sat with the prosecutors and your allegations have changed. Dawn says, I've been consistent. Oh, Lord. I'm like, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. All right. You testified he attempted to hit her about the eggs and Cassie dropped down in a fetal position, right? Dawn says, yes. The attorney says, did you ever say you heard a pan hit the wall? You didn't see it. You didn't see it? She says, I don't recall. I remember her saying something about him getting hit with a pan in that lawsuit when we read it last time. So defense says, would you agree with me? It has been hard for you to keep your story straight with respect to this egg incident. Dawn, I told it as close as I could. Okay. Defense says the day after you said Mr. Combs said people go missing. She says yes. So then his attorney says, let's go to your interview on March 18, 2025. You did not say anything about Mr. Combs told you people go missing. Dawn says, I don't recall that. His attorney says, no worries. I'm going to show you a document for the parties only. Page 5. This is crazy. So defense says, isn't it true? The first time you said this was a week ago. Would you like me to show you your previous interviews? Dawn says, I know what I said. Okay. Defense says, you said Mr. Combs made a death threat, one that you didn't recall 7 times. Ooh, what is happening here? I don't like this. Defense, let's move to alleged incident before the Central Park concert. You are aware there was a camera crew, right? Dawn says, not in the bathroom. Defense says, you were filmed in the park. Are you aware if the video has been turned over? No, she says. So his attorney says, about the guns, you didn't tell the prosecutors about. I saw guns at Diddy's house, right? She says they didn't ask. Defense says you never saw Mr. Combs pull out a gun and wave it around, load bullets, or cock it. Dawn says he just had it. So his attorney says, "Did you tell the government you never saw Mr. Combs do cocaine?" She says, "I don't recall." Okay. Now listen, she did say he had it, but she did not say, I don't know what she told them folks, but understand she did not say that he did it. Did cocaine. She just said that she did say that he had it, but I'm willing to believe if somebody got it, they planned on using it, or either maybe they planned on distributing it to somebody. Okay. So then Dawn says, I don't recall. The attorney says, your testimony has changed on quite a few things. Dawn says, as time progresses, I remember more. Ooh, that's possible. So the defense says, you saw one stop selling drugs. You saw him take money. Dawn says, yes. All right, 1 second. Didn't you tell the government you never saw anyone pay him? So you lied, right? Oh, no. This is too much. So Dawn says, no. Child, somebody done asked the judge for a sidebar. Like, sidebar, we're going to have a talk about this, son. So they came back from the sidebar. So Diddy's attorney says, it was you who reached out to Mr. Combs to work with him again. Yes, it was me. Was it her? Was that her? She's saying, yeah. I thought that he reached out to her and then wanted her on this last album. I don't think she got credit for it. I don't like these. So the defense says, but he had threatened you, right? You asked him to work with you again. Dawn says, yes. Defense said, okay. Defense says the songs you're released on your own have not reached the level of what you released with Danny Kane and Diddy Dirty Money, right? She says, true. Defense says, and you reached out to Mr. Combs to try to make sure or try to make more money, right? She said, yeah. Okay, prosecutor said, we need a side bar. We need a side bar, Your Honor, okay? So they're back from the long sidebar, and it's a redirect. Okay. So the prosecutor said, why did you file the civil lawsuit? Dawn says, when I worked for Mr. Combs, I had no sleep. It was the conditions. Prosecutor, in every meeting with the government, did you say that Mr. Combs beat Cassie? Answer, yeah, I said that. All right. Then it goes to the prosecutor saying, why'd you reach out to Mr. Combs? Donna Richards says, one of the judge on making the ban, Lorianne Gibson, I wanted to reach out. Objection. Judge said, sustain. Okay. Prosecutor, how often would you hear from Mr. Combs after you left Diddy Dirty Money? All right. She said, let me go back. She says, sporadic. It was sporadic. Prosecutor, why did you reach out? Dawn says, to help Kalina Harper. When I tell you I believe this, and for Kalina Harper to get her ass up there and turn around when Dawn witnessed, acknowledged what it is she witnessed at that house with the breakfast dinner, the breakfast or whatever, getting hit with the pan or the eggs or whatever, for her to acknowledge that and say pretty much that Kalina was with her without naming Kalina. I don't think she named Kalina. Did Kalina ass came out with a statement trying to deny and say that Dawn was lying, only for us to find out that Diddy had been in contact with Kalina too? Girl, that's crazy. And the way that people have been alleging that Kalina kids been taken from her. So basically what is given to me is that Dawn did reach out to help her. Okay? With some Cornish too, because after Love and Hip Hop, what else was Kalina working on? What else was she doing? Child. So prosecutor says, no further questions. Diddy's people get up there and says, maybe we have a brief conference at the bench. So they get into a brief conference at the bench. Now it's time for a recross. Okay, Diddy's attorney, you admit you reached out to Mr. Combs to re-engage. You claim only to have a relationship with Lorianne Gibson. But if it got back together, you'd have to see Mr. Combs more, right? She says, yes. Diddy's attorney, you sued for money, right? Dawn says for justice. Diddy's attorney said, but the suit asked for money though, right? She says, yes. Judge says, no further questions. So what are y'all trying to prove here? That, because what is given for me, all right? Let me see. Is there anything more? Okay. Oh, Carrie is testifying, the friend Carrie. So we'll get to that. So I'm gonna finish this and then I'm gonna give y'all my thoughts. All right. So they're saying he said no further questions. The judge asked for Miss Slavic. Okay, no redirect. So basically, the prosecutors are not going to do a redirect. So they're about to break. So they're going to go on a break. Then it's going to be time to get into what Kerry Morgan had to say. Now, Kerry Morgan is the former friend of Cassie. All right, this is the person that I believe Diddy may have assaulted or did something to, and Cassie had to get that girl $1 million. Some words were exchanged, and that was like the end of their friendship, right? But when it comes to Dawn's testimony and when they are having this back and forth, this is what I'm thinking they're trying to prove in a sense. They're trying to prove that when this so-called or alleged violence took place, She was complicit. She was complacent. She was okay with what was happening to Cassie, but she didn't want to come out and tell her truth until 2024 after Cassie had already filed her suit. So now that you see the leverage of what Cassie got and Cassie made money off of what she got, now you want to come in and get in on a piece of the pie. This is what I think they're trying to do. I don't know if this is necessarily working, but this is what they're trying to do. Um, and then just poking holes in her story to make it seem like she's a liar. You said this, he did drugs, this and that. And this is where she's messing herself up a little bit to me. Even though I feel like sometimes it is hard to recall events, especially when you may focus on forgetting things. Like, I don't know how that lady mindset, her mental works. So I can understand if she may not recall stuff, but the fact that she is on the stand saying she don't recall, it may make the jurors feel like she is lying, because that is the whole goal that the defense is trying to prove, that she's a liar. Right? So I will say this. Dawn may not have a strong testimony, but I still think Cassie had a strong one. So even if Dawn's testimony may have flopped a bit, I still feel like Cassie had a stronger and compelling testimony. But y'all let me know. But I think they were just trying to like we all are thinking, poke holes in her story. She kind of made it a little easier, in my opinion, for those holes to be poked, to say something that happened in March of 2025 and you can't even recall just 2 months later exactly what was said, but you could say that you recall something that took place years ago. They digging in her for that. And keep in mind, I feel like part of what we're getting from inner city press is not all. Sometimes I'll go and I'll listen to Armand Wiggins, shout out to Armand, or Mims, shout out to Mims, and make it make sense. And when I listen to them, it seems like they'll give me additional bits and pieces that may not have been fully included in inner city press. But I'm loving the dialogue that he's giving, because they also include everything he's saying, but then it may be something else that they'll add from what they grabbed from their notes from being in that courtroom. And I appreciate that, So that's that. But that's what I think they're doing. And I don't think it's looking good for Dawn's testimony. But again, as I said, I think Cassie she gave a really strong one to me last week. That's what I think. Okay. Now the defense may have been on her head top just a little bit, making it seem like, nah, you enjoyed it, this what you wanted, whatever the case. They may have poked just an ounce of reasonable doubt in one or two of them jurors. I don't know. But I believe what she said happened. I'm sorry. That's just what I feel about that. But let's get to Kerry, her best friend, who also comes over and she testifies as well. So the government, they call Kerry Morgan to the stand and ask her where she lives. She lives in Los Angeles. Who is this? She says, Cassie. Prosecutor, what was your relationship? We were best friends. Her boyfriend assaulted me. Boyfriend as in who? Do you see him here? She said, yeah, he over there in a yellow sweater. So prosecutor, let the record reflect the witness has identified defendant Sean Combs. All right. Where are you here? Or why are you here? And then Kerry said, because I was subpoenaed. Okay. Meaning, BIT, if I ain't have to be here, I wouldn't be here, because I don't want to have shit to do with neither one of them or what they got going on. Okay. High key. All right, but if it's gonna bring him to justice and y'all gonna subpoena me to be here, then fine, I'll show up. Period. So then they asked her, where did you live with Cassie? She said, Manhattan. Prosecutor, did Cassie drink? Kerry said, not too much. She said, do she do drugs? She said, none. Do you know what I'm hearing? What I'm hearing is this woman did not do drugs at once upon a time of her life until she was introduced to it while dating this man. Okay. Now, granted, I do understand people, for the folks that's probably gonna get in the car. I do know that people may be on drugs and their friends and family may not be privy to it because they haven't exposed their side of them. To those people, I get that, right? But I also can see it being a situation where you know, she didn't start doing that until she got with him. So, what was she doing for work? All right, Kerry says modeling. Then she recorded me and you. I've been waiting, thinking about making that move now. Baby, tell me how you like it. Y'all know the song that's been in my head, Official Girl. Official girl, girl, I'ma make you my official girl. Listen, I ain't trying to hear it. Listen up, I'll make it clear. Anywho, that's one of the songs that's been in my head lately. But anywho, so the prosecutor says, when did you learn they were dating? She said in 2007. All right. So the prosecutor, did you travel with Cassie and Diddy? She said, yeah, to Ibiza, Miami. Okay. What drugs did Mr. Combs provide? Well, he provided Molly, marijuana, ecstasy, a few things. Well, which did Mr. Combs take? Oh, he took all of them. He did. Did you take drugs along with Cassie? Opiates. I had some, I took some opiates or whatever, right? So then the prosecutor says, how did Mr. Combs act? Carrie says he would yell at Cassie. She lost her confidence big time. Like, she lost her spark. Prosecutor, did Mr. Combs talk up down to Cassie? Yes. About her looks, who she talked to? I believe it. Sorry. All right. Prosecutor, did he contact you looking for her? A lot. He contacted me a lot, honey. And I was like, I don't know why you calling my phone. Call me a lot. All right. So Kerry says sometimes he would call 50 times in a row. Ooh, that sounds controlling. And I believe it. Okay. Possessive, controlling, just over the top. I be mad. Be mad. I believe it. I believe it. I believe it. All right. She says, would others call you for him? She said, yeah, Christina Karam, or KK, as some people would call her. Baby, you're gonna have to come to the front, ma'am. You're gonna have to come to the front. Miss KK, because the way your name all up and through these court documents, you're gonna have to see them. Okay, prosecutor, did you witness assault? She said, yeah, first in the Hollywood Hills. Okay, Ruben, one of his security guards, was there too. Okay, well, what did Mr. Combs do to Cassie? Well, he had kicked her. And what did she do? She didn't do nothing. I told Ruben to do something. He indicated he wouldn't. And then what? She says, we left the house. Cassie and I were hiding by someone's front steps. Not hiding by the front step, girl. Listen. I wonder if I know Cassie carries like a bit of guilt for also having her friend around and maybe feeling like whatever happened to her friend, it would have never happened if she didn't have her around type thing. I can imagine the guilt Cassie has been left with, and the automatic blame she puts on herself for a lot of situations that I just don't feel like were her fault. Like, it's sad. This is just, listen. Everybody, let me just keep going. So, they go on to say, and the next time that it happened, she said in Jamaica, I saw him drag her by her hair. I ran back to get my purse and phone so we could leave. And what did you see next? I thought she was knocked out. Then she got up and ran into the wooded area. Ooh, ooh. What happened next? There were two golf carts in the driveway. I got in one and Sean got in the other, and we went in different directions looking for Cassie. Did you find her? Yeah, we did. Then we hid in a ditch whispering, hiding from this man. What about the incident at Comstock Apartments? And Carrie says Cassie came back with a hoodie covering her face. Then Sean came and tried to get in, hitting the door with a hammer. I called D-Rock. Did he get in? And Carrie said no. Then the police came. Okay. So that is what we have up until this point. Not sure what else it may be going on. I'm just going to refresh and see if he's giving us some more. But Carrie, you better talk. You better tell your truth, mamas. You better sit up there and you better tell your truths and you better tell everything. I know that's motherfucking right. Because you sat up there and you assaulted me and did what you did and thought that it wasn't going to come back around to where I got to sit in your face and I got to nail you to the cross. I'm finna nail it. And you're part of the reason as to why me and my best friend are not friends anymore because of your okay. And I believe I could see Carrie. I mean, just thinking about how women are in friendships and stuff, I could see her likely trying to tell her friend about this man. And her friend's like, no, it's okay. You know, you don't stay there for a minute and you want to support your friend through this and maybe it'll stop at some point, and it doesn't until you then violate it. And sometimes it's going to lead you to separate from your friend. Some people going to separate before even getting violated, because it's like, I want the best for my friend. I want her to be out of this situation, but I can't continue to subject myself to this, right? Because he don't give a damn about her nor who she's around as to why he's being abusive to her. So I'm just going to kind of like take a step back. But if she ever needs me, I'm going to be here. But I'm going to take a step back. And before Carrie left, unfortunately, she ended up being assaulted. And who had to pay for that? Cassie had to pay for that. I don't know if Diddy paid anything, but I think Cassie said she had to give her $1 million. Ain't that something? That's terrible. Terrible, terrible, terrible. All right, y'all, we got some updates and I want us to get into that real quick. All right. So, first of all, we ended on this portion here. What about the incident at Comstock Apartments? All right. And Kerry says Cassie came back with a hoodie covering her face. Then Sean came and tried to get in, hitting the door with a hammer. I called D-Rock. Did he get in? No, the police came. All right. So then we got this. What happened? All right. Let's get back. Make sure you can refresh. Let's see. What happened? Okay, I'm like, what is going on? Why is it bouncing all the way to the bottom? Oh, that's because he's updating more. Okay, 1 second. All right, so he says, what happened? Cassie wouldn't show them her ID and nothing happened. They left a card, right? So then the prosecutor says, read the message. Did you send an attachment? Kerry says, yes, a photo of the card, and the detective left. All right. So then they asked her, they said, did Mr. Combs ever assault you? Kerry says, yes, he hit me with a wood coat hanger and choked me. Prosecutor, where did the hanger hit you? Morgan says, behind my right ear. All right. Prosecutor, what did he express concern about? Morgan says, who Cassie was cheating on him with. So then the prosecutor said, who did you speak to about it? Kerry says, Ryan, Sean's old assistant. And what did he do? Kerry says, nothing. I have not spoken with Cassie since. Honey. And then at that point, that is when the judge says break. All right. So everybody is out for lunch. All right. And the arguments will continue with the jury out for lunch. The arguments continue. The judge, what's your best citation to try to get this evidence in? Of course, the prosecutor gives their thoughts. Judge says, I'll look at them and we'll come back. And then, of course, Diddy's attorney is saying that he hasn't seen certain information before. Okay. So that is what's going on at this particular time. I just wanted to come and give you guys a little breakdown of what all was happening over there in the courtroom with everything. And yeah, y'all leave y'all thoughts and comments down below. I'll see if I get a chance to come back to you guys a little later today, and we'll break down what it is that Inner City Press is saying regarding this who Kerry, because now that Kerry has been talked to by the prosecutor, she may continue to be talked to them, but at some point today, it will be time for her to be cross-examined, and hopefully we get a chance to get into that before the day is over. But leave your thoughts and comments down below. That's all that I have for you guys at this time. I am Jami, that's me. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share my videos. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at JamiThatsMe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.
Yeah, tell him I preach to the choir. Stand with my feet to the fire. Give all the glory to God. Stand in the midst of these haters, I'm silent, nobody can stop me. Just gotta check in my notification, them numbers hit like it's a proxy. Cashed out at the ATM, and the ATL, they done made a gym. I've been kicking doors like the ATF, got them trying to clone me like Agent Smith. Game time, I invaded gym, high elevated, I could face the rim, putting shots up. I got laser focus, about to take it over, I'm Invader Zim. On a trip to Florida like it's A&M. Who that nigga, man, they say I'm him. Spit the truth, never wasting film, I can fill a pool, we gon' make them swim.